Good morning, everybody. This is the day after with Coach Williams and James Hayden, where we have, upon rewatching, kind of look back at the game, take some of the emotionality out of it as well. And more importantly, rewatches are important because you miss a ton of stuff. There's 11 players on each side, so that means there's 11 battles each play. There's no way to understand the game in totality without some rewatches. So we're going to sit back and we're going to kind of discuss as well with the chat whenever y'all come in. Let us know what you're thinking, your opinions. What do you think it means going forward? All that kind of stuff. So first impressions, we'll go broad at first. How'd you feel about the game? And then let's kind of be more segmented. We'll go offense, defense, so we're not just kind of bouncing all over the place. So, Coach, what were you thinking? First impression of the game?
Man, we got the old school Southwest Conference battle, man. A slugfest, so to speak. Man, I thought both teams they're playing hard. Saw a ton of mistakes, uncharacteristic mistakes. Saw receivers and things dropping the ball and stuff like that. Like, that's not normal. But
yeah,
we got a great game, a hard hitting game on a Saturday, man. A little bit of a roller coaster. You didn't know how it was going to go, and momentum kind of swung a little bit. So I enjoyed it as a fan, right? Because that's what you want to see. And I think we talked about that, in other shows. But other than that, man, I thought Texas got a tough road win in the SEC, which, is not happening, if you look around. So kudos to Texas for finding a way to pull it out. But I just saw old Southwest Conference battle, man. Everybody getting after it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. You really could sense the rivalry, which maybe, younger people like in my generation sometimes forget how bitter this old rivalry is. And Sark had that quote about how they hate our guts, which is very true. And I think a lot of people learned that in 21. But yeah, it was a gritty game, gutty, sloppy at times. But that's one that Texas lost, 90% of the last decade and a half. So I think people sometimes need to take the blinders off and realize, hey, they didn't play good, but there was no turnovers, even though Blue, tempted fate with that fumble. But no turnovers, the gritty win. That's one they used to lose, and then now he can just build off of a sloppy win, and look at the things that, hey, we did this, did that, where we were bad, and improve on that. But, hey, don't take it for granted because, as Homer can tell you, there's been plenty of years where that's a loss to an Iowa State or an Oklahoma State, and now it's a win on the road against Arkansas, which you saw at the beginning of the Sark era was not even close to a given. So that's what I got out of it. While bad in areas, good win overall, because Tennessee, for example, couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's still definitely, whenever Arkansas gets close, there's that fan gut reaction. It was just funny to watch Twitter when Arkansas pulled within however many. It was kind of we catastrophized it a little bit.
I was worried too because it was 13-10 at one point, and I was on the boat of I thought they were going to rout them. So I thought they were going to do what Ole Miss did to them, not to the extent. But I expected Quinn to have a Florida similar performance. Didn't pan out that way. And then when it was 13-10, I was like, oh shoot, could I actually be that wrong about this? I thought maybe they would actually pull the upset. I was a little nervous.
I had been on that week kind of saying that I wanted a closer game because I just felt we haven't been gut checked, right? Georgia was the only time we got gut checked, and we failed that remarkably. So fans didn't like it because they don't want to have a close game with Arkansas, But I was like, at some point, guys, before we play A&M or playoffs, we need a couple of grimy ones. I think they're important. Like we had them last year versus Iowa State. You got to grind a couple of them out. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Generally, when you do grind them out, you're also exposing some inherent weaknesses, right? So I think two things can be true. It's a good win on the road in Arkansas. That matters. That's its own thing. On the flip side, we saw some things that could potentially not scale against better competition. So that's worrying, right? I don't think there's any side of the fan base that's wrong here. The guy that's like, hey, I'm excited. A win's a win. I think you're valid. The person's going, hey, a win. Yeah, I get it. A win's a win, guys. But if our offense plays like that, we're getting beat by A&M. I think that's also valid. So that's what we kind of have to figure out and suss out. Are these is this, in y'all's opinion, is the offensive woes a trend or it has to be a trend, right?
Yeah, it is.
We've seen it several times.
Right.
It's like if there's one data point, okay, once you got 3 data points, now we're really working with a line here,
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think is kind of, if we're projecting forward, some people get stuck in the game itself. Texas won this game, and they did. When you play A&M, when you play in the playoffs, how do you guys feel about the offense moving forward?
Me personally, though, that type of performance, I think we've already seen it before. Like you said, it's a trend. that gets you beat in the playoffs, right? When you're supposed to be playing your best ball, and I think we had we went live last week with LC. We talked about maybe Texas offense is hitting their stride. They're about to, turn it up a bit. And then we get this game versus Arkansas that you wasn't expecting because a team who came off a Florida performance looked really, really good. And it's like, oh, okay, here we go. And it's like, oh, man, here we go. You know what I mean? So for me, that kind of performance will get you beat in the playoffs. And I would like to see just more consistency of playing better and executing better, especially late in the season. We're in November now, right? And so it'll be December before you know it. And so that's not winning football on offense, and that definitely will get you beat and sent home in the playoffs.
Yeah. To that point, I'd say in college football, it's obviously like Arkansas looked like they were trending down. Texas looked like they were trending up after the Florida game. It's really a week-by-week thing, as I've kind of learned as getting older, because you would think, yes, you would like to see Texas smoke a team like that, right? That's kind of what I was anticipating going into the week. But going back to Homer's point about Iowa State, right? Last year they were close against Houston, Iowa State, Kansas State. I don't think necessarily because Texas is playing Arkansas close, who's probably a 500 team to finish the year, that means that Sark won't have them ready to play their best ball in the playoff. Because I think that's very much a factor. Pretend it's not when you're talking like 18 to 23-year-old kids, is that every single week is ebbs and flows. You like to try and stay constant, but you look at Saban's team at the end of his tenure even. 2021, they were the runner-ups, right? They lost A&M on the road. They played so many teams close. 22, they played, Texas before Texas was really arrived. They played Texas close. And they were playing so many teams close to the end. They were still, at the end of the year, right where they needed to be to win, achieve all their goals. So I just would say, let's try not to overreact, kind of not have amnesia. And remember last year, like that Texas team was a play away from the national title. People argue they probably should have been there, right? And they played games against a lesser competition in Houston where it was a gritty game like that. So I think overall, if we look at things from a wider landscape, it's not the end of the world, obviously, and it doesn't necessarily mean like they're going to play like that when they play A&M. Ideally, you would think they'd play up, and Sark would have a great game plan for a game like
that. Yeah, I'm down with that. I guess scoring 49 against Florida is part of that trend. Florida beat LSU. Yeah, DJ Lagway looked good.
Yeah,
Barry, this is kind of what I heard too from fans, right? If you have a good performance, therefore you don't have bad performances. I think the argument here is the Texas offense is inconsistent, right? If having a good game doesn't cancel out that you had 3 bad games either. The argument is not that this is a bad offense or a great offense. It's an inconsistent offense. And when you do that, you have struggle projecting what are you going to get Florida, or are you going to get Vandy where you play a half a game, or are you going to get Georgia where the offense doesn't work at all? We don't know. And that's what's more frustrating. It's not saying there's a bad offense or a good offense, saying we don't know what we're getting week to week here, right? As soon as we thought we were on the up and up in Florida, we didn't have that. So that's the problem, is we're having trouble projecting this offense. When I think in a 4th year with NFL players, NFL line, NFL quarterback, 3 NFL receivers, NFL tight end, national championship winning offensive coordinator, you would think we wouldn't be struggling as much as we are in some of these cases. So we don't need to blindly defend the whole team. We also don't need to blindly be critical. We just need to address our points that we're dealing with some inconsistency here, and it's okay to voice that. All right. But I do like I like that you mentioned Florida. Y'all watch Lagway?
I did.
It's insane. That backfield is going to be quite good for the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, they're Napier got a win that he needed, man.
Yeah.
They ran Dan Mullen out of town wrongfully, in my opinion, and then they were about to do Napier dirty again in 3. So I'm glad they're at least giving him the 4th year, because if he has a pop year, then he could stay.
Yeah, I think we all said that beginning of the season, Lagway may be able to save his job, and it looks that way. Man, that kid is special. I can't wait to see how he progresses.
Yeah, he is. When I was watching that game, also with Schadenfreude, right? Because the reality of just having to be in A&M, dealing with A&M, they had 2 top 25 wins. Both of those teams lost. So the argument that Texas has no top 25 wins, they can no longer do that. So that was also a fun aspect of it. We shouldn't be struggling with 3 high looks anymore. So that's what's weird, is like we weren't really struggling with them last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like we played a ton. Like Kansas State, Quinn didn't even play that game, but they do 3-high stuff. Iowa State, they're a little tricky, but I don't give that to so much a 3-high. I give that as like they're the creator of the 3-high. Like they're incredible at it,
Yeah.
That's just a good defense that happens to be 3-high because they created it. I feel like we got better at it, but what you want to do against that defense is like you want to power run, right? So you want to go 12 personnel, you want to be pulling guards, and we're not a great running team. And so I think that's limiting us. But also just the problem with the 3-high is like they're packing the middle of the field.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go on the outsides. If you can beat your corner, you can beat your corner. Ole Miss faced 3-high and they put up 60 on them.
Exactly.
So this concept of like you can't pass versus 3-high, Lane Kiffin doesn't subscribe to that.
Yeah.
And so you have to pull them apart, the second and third levels. You have to stretch them apart with your concepts, and this is what Texas is not great at. Get corner one-on-ones and throw the fade ball. That's just not really our game, though. So you can either power run or you can say, I don't care that you're in 3-high like Lane Kiffin, but we're not able to do that. So
we saw Golden get open going to the outside on that wheel. And then they did try some fades and they just weren't hitting. Like on that one that Quinn was late on the one, and then right after they threw that touchdown. And then that other one that should have been PI was another fade look. They tried to Golden. That just didn't really work for him. But the outside did work.
And then, and Georgia didn't play a 3-high, and we had 15 points, So it's like I don't think so much of this is 3-high as so much as the offense is struggling versus various personnel and various looks.
Yep.
And so I don't think it's necessarily a schematic component why we struggled that game. And also they're 3-2-6. They played it versus Tennessee. We knew it was coming. So it's also still just a failure of preparation at some point, But I don't think it's so much the 3-high there. I think we answered that. I think Sark really grew. I think that showed me a lot from year 1 and year 2 to year 3, racing 3-highs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one gets better experience than a Big 12 team because everybody
runs.
Everybody plays it, dude.
Yeah, because against TCU in 22, that was like the infamous one against the 3-3-5.
Yes.
Totally stalled out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know so much of it's 3-high. But man, that's the one thing I was excited about the SEC, dude. I hate that defense just because of the struggles we have had with it. And now it's like spreading everywhere. Well, Ole Miss has the best wide receiver core in the country and the best quarterback in the SEC. Yeah, but we have Bond NFL player, Moore NFL player, Golden NFL player, Helm NFL player. So it's like I get it. Ole Miss, who's their number one that's an absolute killer? Is it
Harris? Aaron Watkins, Juice Wells, those three guys.
Yeah,
he's a killer.
They'll probably all be NFL guys, those three.
Yeah, but I'm saying Texas. I can say you can give Ole Miss the nod there. I haven't watched them enough to honestly say, but we have requisite guys to be able to pass, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
for sure. Exactly.
So let's see. I wonder what happened to bringing in the extra tight end to counter the 3-high defense. Aragbo is still on the roster, isn't he? Just curious. Yeah, we haven't seen the Super Big 12 this year, have we?
No, not that I can recall whatsoever. I haven't seen it at all this year.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. Perry, I agree with you, man. To go really big, get an extra tackle in there if they're going to play 3-high. I also think we don't face it enough. I mean, Oklahoma played it a little bit, right?
Right, yeah, they did.
Did Vandy play it?
They got into it once, and then we beat them on 3rd down, but that was it.
Okay. I wondered if we kind of took it out because we weren't facing everyone's base defense being that way, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was sad not to see them go more heavy personnel because I just figure the reason we stack these classes on top of each other and get the sizes of the Alabamas and the Georgias is to be able to play lesser competition and run it down their throat. And I felt like they got a little too cutesy at times with motion. The one drive I noticed that really kind of irked me was the 3 and out, where 2 out of the 3 plays were like double motion reverses, and we're going so lateral instead of just why do we have 4 and 5 stars, and why are we going 3 deep in the O-line room if we're not going to use it,
Yeah, and kind of watching over, Arkansas did a good job of mixing up. They went 3 high, and they'd go 4 down and do something else. So they really did a good job mixing up. Maybe when you get ready to put that personnel in, Arkansas went right back down to a 4-down line and not, took away a 3-high look. And so we weren't able to do it, even when you were getting ready to do it. Arkansas switched it up too. So they didn't run it consistently all game, but they did it enough. You thought you might have saw it, the 12 personnel or jumbo package, but they did a good job of kind of mixing it up.
Yeah, it's Also, too, like our tight end run blocking is not great. So
Nah.
it's like going into 12. And Gunnar Helm is like, it's not great because I think there's just, dude, being 6'7" is not advantageous in the blocking game. Like people can get in your chest really easy. And they can also get inside your arms. You know, like if you're not a big, strong offensive lineman, you're not gonna be able to post your arms that well. And they get in your chest. And when they get in your chest, then they start moving and then you get holds. So it's like, I also just don't think we're a great downhill team. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
I agree with you. We kind of want that size. And when I was watching it for a third time last night, James, to your point, all this mixed direction, I'm like, man, some of this stuff, like I can vacillate. Like Sark's offense is so creative and this is awesome and how much stress this puts on defenses. And then sometimes I'm like, we're doing a lot of work to run counter.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like there's some of that, you know, it's like, hey man, this is supposed to be an elite team, 5 stars. It's like some of this window dressing, it's like, dude, like there should be an aspect of the offense where we line up and we're better than you.
Yeah. Like Bond will just be open a lot of times because he's better. You know, he'll just Jaden Blue will just make a man miss or he'll just have an open running lane because we just have bigger, better guys.
Yeah. So it's like, and don't get me wrong, I love Sark's creativity. But just sometimes it's only when we're having bad games. When we're having good games, I love the creativity.
Exactly.
Whenever we're having a bad games, you know, I'm like,
yeah,
you know, you get hyper.
It's like, oh, look how creative the double reverse last week.
If it scores, if it's like,
and then this week you're like, dude, come on, just keep it simple.
There's an aspect where you can't win, like whenever you're not having a perfect game. But you're right, like you know that. The last week, the crazy 7 reverses, you know, made national football news. Everybody's like, hell yeah.
That got us good views.
Yeah. And then this week, we're like, man, just run the damn ball. That's just kind of the nature of like a close match.
You can't win. You can't win with fans. That's what I've learned just in the 3 months.
You don't.
Yeah, for sure. Before we keep going, guys, let's hear a word from Andre.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
Nice, James. No one knew you were even gone, dude. You really nailed that. Oh, no.
I had to turn my little spotlight on.
Stan Drayton got fired?
Yeah.
Bummer, man.
Tough.
I like Stan, man.
Mm-hmm.
But also, man, that's a suicidal job to take, man. Like, I know there's so much, like, I get it. Want to be a head coach is awesome, dude. But there's like somewhere it's like, dude, you're going to fail, man. Like,
man, it's tough.
They're setting you up to fail, dude.
Yeah.
But also a couple $1 million. All right. That's
not bad either, right?
A nice type of failure. I like that type of failure.
I can be an analyst somewhere and still get paid.
Yeah, for sure.
Forgive me for not knowing who is Stan Drayton.
Drayton. He was our running back coach.
Yeah. Wait, they just fired him like this week?
Yeah, but he played at Temple. He's coaching at Temple. Head coach at Temple.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He was Bijan's coach. He got us Bijan.
The guy at UNLV, he was our receivers coach, right? He's doing pretty well.
Brendan Marion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Drayton's at Temple head coach, and then Marion. Did they win last night? I was watching it before I went to bed, but I went to bed.
Temple beat Herman in overtime.
Did they really?
Yeah.
And he got fired?
Oh, man.
Yeah. And Herman's still cooking somehow. He's still kicking up over there in the poker room.
That's crazy. Let's give the defense their flowers, people. I actually agree with you there, Crunch.
Yes.
So awesome, man. I love the defense. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is what we're talking about, the inconsistencies. The defense will really help with that. You're playing an A&M because we have been good against quarterback run. If the offense stalls out, maybe you could win a game similar to how they just beat Arkansas. So that is positive.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think everybody can leave Trey Moore alone now. Like now
he got a good pass like 3 games.
Doing it all, man. Like he's doing it all, right? Mm-hmm. He's a complete edge player, which is the hope for. You don't want to just be a pass rush specialist. Like you want to be able to do it all. He's playing well, like late down the stretch, which we all thought I did. I was in his corner, man. I was a bit rooting for him. And shout out to Alfred Collins, man. Like, he's being consistent. He's earning himself some money. The play on the screen where he chased the guy down and knocked the ball out, I was like, okay, all right. He's different. He's grown up. He's mature, whatever you want to call it. But this defense, it's a team defense. Somebody makes a play every single game or series. It's by series. It may be somebody in the secondary, one series, linebacker, or the front, the front four. So it's like, man, like a complete total team defense playing well together.
Yeah. James, what are you thinking?
Yeah, Alfred, that was what I loved seeing, was just he's so quick. And how about Michael Taft leading the team in tackles? I mean, I felt like he was kind of having a quiet start to the game, which is good. Like, no one's ever talking about you as a DB. That's typically a good sign. Like, you're doing your job, kind of like Manny Muhammad this year. But, yeah, obviously we can't talk about defense without Jade. I mean, he had probably the biggest Thorpe showing I've ever seen. That little safety sneak blitz was awesome. Like, that they kind of thought he was bluffing. Then, boom, right up the gut. Nobody saw that coming. That was kind of a new wrinkle in PK's defense. I said
him right up the A gap.
Yeah, from the players to PK, like, that's not a problem at all. Like, PK is, I mean, his schemes are insane. It seems like the longest rush that Arkansas had was 12 yards. Like, I know we talked about the run defense, and some people been a little bit of comments on the Mike linebacker play, but overall that defense, I mean, that's probably the best defense you've seen in Austin since, I mean, I want to say like 09, 08, but. That it's been really cool to watch.
Dude, I don't even know. It might be better than those. Like, I really have to go and look. Like, statistically, this is an awesome defense, man.
It is.
There's dudes now. Like, Jade is a legit dude. Alfred could play himself into a day 2, maybe even a day 1 guy, depending on how he tests. But
he'll test well, man. He's got all the size and speed.
Yeah, that's good.
His speed is so impressive. I mean, yeah, and from last week's batted ball, this week's that chase down strip sack that led to the Taft recovery.
Yeah, but the fumble, like we were saying, team defense, right? Like, he strips it, and then immediately I look, Taft's right there to recover. Yeah. It's like that's what's awesome, man. It's like the whole they're playing on a string, man. Like
they are,
and like even like little things, man. Like, they'll break a run, the corners make sure to stay outside. They don't let them get the edge. So like the corner's not making the play, but he's forcing the ball back in. Like they're understanding the defense. They're helping they're making plays that you don't even realize they're making for each other. Yeah. And so that's what's super cool about it, man. And like Coach says, the communication and all of that. Like, this is an awesome defense. And they've answered every time they've been questioned. It's awesome, man. We really got to sit back and enjoy this defense for sure.
It's just guys are always, it seems like someone is always in the right place at the right time. Like, nobody, going back to, to talk about our boy at FAU, to the previous leadership, it doesn't ever seem like there's guys out of place. And even at the beginning of Sark's era, because he hasn't really, you haven't instilled a culture yet, because Taft has talked about that. Like, he's like, now we just never have guys out of place. There's never someone running scot-free. It always seems like people are just doing their jobs. Yeah. It's just really impressive to watch, not just for, like, I feel like a Texas fan, just if you're a fan of college football, it's to watch how great this team is as a unit.
Yeah, and there's no gimmick to the defense either, right? Like, I'm not – 3 high is not a gimmick to me anymore because it's become such a part of football. But in the beginning, it was kind of a gimmicky – like, we're playing 4-2-5, you know, and we're just playing coverages. Like, we'll have a wrinkle, right, like sending Jade up the A-gap. But, like, we're not a hyper-blitzy team. Like, we're not doing anything – we're not unbalanced, And so it's like that's the thing, too, is, like, that's just good coaching and good players. We're not doing, like, this they haven't seen this
defense
before type advantage,
Right.
That's what I think is cool about it. Alfred preseason was the biggest variable in this defense. He's now the anchor and a pleasant surprise. Yeah, remember the fear is losing Sweat, Murphy. And I think our interior guys have done a really good job there.
Really good job.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. Let's see if I can – with capped relative total scoring margin as a tiebreaker, do you still start going for time-consuming drives over scoring drives? I mean, no. If you can score in one play, do it.
Yeah, right.
But sure. But it's a little tricky. I think now with Tennessee's loss, though, it's Texas, Alabama if we went out, and then in the SEC championship. Someone asked about the SEC, which I think is going to be interesting too. Let me see.
Yeah, that guy's comment was good because literally every note I made in my notes app before talking about this game, I only have 1 point about defense. The rest is just critiques or
Offense. Yeah.
that's just the pessimism. We're just naturally pessimistic. It seems.
Yeah,
There's right. Like there's a natural thing. If you're doing analysis, what
Mhm.
gets you beat, not what you do great.
Yeah.
You know, and if I'm coaches in the coaching room, are you guys looking at the other team, how great they do stuff? Are you looking for their weaknesses to exploit?
You're looking straight for their weaknesses. You may start out, well, okay, this is what they do well. You want to know what they do well, but man, all right, how can we exploit these boys, right? You're looking for all the negatives on every single player and as a unit. And so, you're definitely taking notes. Most of my notes are on special teams because it seems like that's the roller coaster ride I never signed up for, but I'm on it. You know what I mean? But
there's going to be like, I hear fans, it's like, you guys are only picking on the negative things. It's like, well, yeah, there's a negative bias to analysis. Right. I don't need to tell you that we're good at something, you know, like, you know that. So it's like, yeah, of course we're going to be kind of picking on the weaknesses. What do you think A&M's going to do? Pick on our weaknesses. So it's like, it's that kind of thing. There's always going to be a negative bias in analysis. I mean, that's literally, it's critical thinking. You're being critical. That's kind of how it works. D-line about to tee off on Brock Vandergrift.
Hey, easy, guys. Come on.
Kentucky O-line is terrible, and he can't throw. Dude, Watson versus Murray, he was throwing ducks, dude. He threw 2 interceptions in a row. The balls died mid-air.
No, he's about to break 10 touchdowns. I don't want to hear it.
Dude, he threw the one that the corner just dropped off his chest, and then he immediately did it again. And I was like, man.
I don't even think it's all his fault. That's the thing. I really don't think it's all his fault, though.
Those 2 were absolutely his fault. No one hit it.
I'm proud of you for watching the Murray State game. I've tuned out on Kentucky football. Now that we beat Duke in basketball, that's all I'm about.
Well, I have to watch them because I have to do the breakdowns. And I was looking, Berrien Brown wasn't playing. And Kentucky has 2, Dane Key and Berrien Brown are 2 really good.
Legit weapons. Like,
they don't use them. But on any other team,
those offenses have never used them.
Yeah, it makes no sense because y'all have 2 like awesome starting wide receivers, but they don't get utilized, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's kind of the thing. It's like Texas is kind of going to learn coming into the SEC. I think is what happened. Ole Miss is a team like Kentucky is like you're saying. Berrien Brown, Dane Key are both probably NFL guys.
Yeah.
There's just so many NFL guys, just like in a cubbyhole of some random roster in the SEC. Like I've watched it growing up a Kentucky fan because I remember the likes of like Randall Cobb and stuff like that when Kentucky was a bottom, right? Yeah. So even Kentucky's Kentucky, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe, because they typically recruit in the 20s, would probably be 1 or 2 in the Big 12 standings of recruiting.
Yeah. Like that's the big difference is like when I was doing their breakdown, I was like, they have the relative lowest talent in the SEC that would still put them at 50th in the country.
Yeah.
Like Vandy's still the 50th most talented team in the country, and they're worse in the SEC.
That's like Oklahoma State. Who is that this year? Was the conference runner-up.
No, that's the difference, man. Like the requisite average talent of each roster is much higher, and you're dealing with NFL guys week in and week out. Like in the Big 12, you'd be like, okay, there's an NFL safety, and like they have like a 7th round slot.
Yeah,
and they're like, but this in the SEC, you're like, okay, there's 3 or 4 NFL players on the defense. They got 2 linemen and 2 receivers. It's a different thing. And they're also just physically bigger. Like whenever you just look like you're just like, this is a physically larger team.
Deion Walker, even on Kentucky,
he didn't play either, dude. He didn't play either.
Dumas Johnson. See, I'm so tuned out, man. They haven't won a game.
Yeah, Brown was out and Walker was out. They were just chilling. I know they'll be back for us, but man, Kentucky is not a good offense. But as you can see with Ole Miss, man, they can drag you into the mud.
Yeah, rope-a-dope.
Somebody got a comment sounding like you there, Homer. He may be on audition if he plays this Saturday. Talking about Berrien Brown.
Yeah, because I don't think he's going to go pro.
Yeah, Berrien Brown, you are a Longhorn, dude. If he's
I would be happy with him coming over. He's very dynamic. He's just like we were saying, hadn't gotten the opportunities there in such a bad offense.
I don't know why you would stay at Kentucky because they're just like not passing to him. But he's awesome, dude. Berrien Brown I think he's a 10-5 guy too. Really, really athletic, good returner, nice. And then Dane Key is just a big body. He just catches the ball. Yeah. That's the type of wide receivers I like Dane Key. I don't like. I'm not with the. I'm not like super on the modern fast guy like Tyreek Hill wave.
Yeah,
I'm on like dude. You need like a 6'5" guy. That's good. I like Randy Moss.
Yes.
But also, I'm acting like Randy Moss was slow. He was not.
There's not enough of that now. It feels like to me. I feel like there's not been enough big guys that consume.
Yeah. Whole Hog said that Texas isn't that good and not number 3 in the country. Who's Whole Hogs?
Probably an Arkansas fan.
Whole Hog or some site, who knows?
Shout out Whole Hogs. I would say, dude, I don't think anyone's as good as they're ranked, dude. Watching Oregon, like we have this mindset of Texas is not number 3 because we're thinking about number 3s like the past decade.
Right.
You know, and like I'd agree with you. Like, there's some inconsistencies, but this year, dude, like you could be ranked number 1, and I'd be like, yeah, maybe. Like, I don't know how this is a weird year. I hope it stays like this. I hope we require this much parity, because it makes the games matter. The weekends matter, you know. And even like a game that supposedly doesn't matter, LSU losing to Florida, like that was an interesting game because a bunch of teams are 10-2 and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. Would love to see us get. Yeah, me too, man. They hate Texas more than they love themselves. Of course, they said that. That's what's even crazier is they agreed with that.
Yeah,
like that's like a slight, you know, like they hate Texas more than they love themselves. And then they asked Pittman, he's like, "That's probably true." And I was like, "Wow,
I didn't see that."
No, dude, yeah, Pittman like weeks ago. Sark said it weeks ago first, and then Pittman was like, "That's probably accurate," you know.
Oh, Pittman's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it is funny, like coming on the other side of it because obviously I went to Baylor. So seeing just how, because even at Baylor, the kids, and I would be like, guys, stop. They're just throwing horns down at every game. I'm like, dude, they're not even in the conference anymore.
Yeah.
And
it's become this like universal.
But it's where like these other schools in the region, not just Texas, make their whole identity hating Texas. With A&M, it's just kind of like sad because they literally do horns down more than gig 'em because this is the dumbest thing. But Arkansas too, I'm like, come on, guys. Just be happy being a nice team that occasionally goes 9-4.
It's weird being a Texas fan, man, because like everyone hates you. You're not really sure why. Like for your rivals, you know, you're like Oklahoma, sure, A&M, sure, Arkansas, sure. But like whenever you're like watching like Virginia Tech play like Duke, and then you just see like a horns down randomly in the crowd. You're like,
what are we doing?
What's going on, dude? I don't even know if we've ever played y'all before, you know. So it's like that's what's weird. It's become like this like cross conference. They don't even have to have relations to Texas. It's so weird, man. And it's just funny, like no matter what, Texas can't be right. Like it's just hilarious on Twitter. Like they will just find a reason to be like, see, that's Texas. Like I remember when A&M, whenever we threw the bottles, A&M was like, see, exactly what we're talking about. It's like, we've never done that before, A&M. Yeah. What are you talking about? You know, they're like, see, that's what they do. It's like, we literally don't do that. That's the first time we've done that. It always cracks me up, man.
Yeah, and then the funny thing was there was literally video of Georgia doing that in the 22 And then, of course, the A&M guys yelling in the dugout at the College World Series. That one went viral. So it was just funny to be like, yep, they've got no class.
Yeah, it's just, dude, Texas, like, no matter what Texas does, it gets picked up nationally. Yep. And, like, I see why our SID is so paranoid, like, all the time. You know, like, Texas really locks down their media, dude. Like, and I get mad at it because there's a lack of access that other schools have. But then you also see every dumb thing turn into, like, a national hate Texas moment, you know? So it's like, it's a little tricky, man. All right, let's see. Here we go. Funny how everyone rips Texas for not beating anyone after last night. A&M doesn't have a single ranked win now on their resume. Yeah, that was the good Schadenfreude.
Truth.
Yeah. Let me see. Sam Pittman is begging someone to retire him. Good man, though. I actually like Sam Pittman as well.
Yeah, I like Sam, but every year, man, it seems like he's been on the chopping block with a hot seat. Like, I don't know, for the last 3 years, man. And so we'll see what happens at the end of the season, though.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is a bad comparison, but I kind of always felt like he was sort of a worse Ed Ogeron, just like less talent and sort of, less resources, obviously. But the fact that he popped off, that had to have been Arkansas's first 9-win season since McFadden, right?
Beat us in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it's like he's done a lot with less than most people can say. So I've always liked. He's always, is it wrong to describe him as jolly? He's always a nice, happy guy. He's present in media. I enjoy him. Like, I think he's overexceeded expectations by far. People forget Arkansas was a team that, in the SEC, they were losing. I remember they were losing to FCS schools before he came there. In like 2018, 2019, they were going like 2-10. So
yeah, he's brought him from like total jokes to like, hey, they could catch a couple guys, in the year, which is respectively a different level than they were.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird with Arkansas because I think for me, like they have an outsized ability to what they actually do. Like I think I have more mental respect for Arkansas as a program than they've delivered on. And I don't know if that's just like watching. I wasn't alive for Southwest Conference a lot of it, but like watching the old games, and being like, man, that was a cool team.
Pretty cool team.
So I think they have an outside because it's to me, it's like I want see if Traylor takes Arkansas, Jeff Traylor.
Right.
Like I want to see them with a coach and see what happens. It's because 90% of the fan base is out of their mind arrogant. So, I mean, most fan bases, it's kind of the nature. I mean, fan short for fanatic. So we're not dealing with like hyper rational people, but there's also this problem at Texas, right? Like graduating from there, like there's an elitism problem. Like what starts here changes the world. Like it's a very pat yourself on the back culture.
Yeah.
And like as you go to school there, they're like big, like in your head, like you're doing better than most people. Like it's they don't say it expressively. But that's kind of the culture of it is very like Southern Ivy,
Yeah. No, we get okay. So it's funny you say that. Being from Austin, we all kind of felt like our friends who went to UT totally all of a sudden got this air around them where they. Because one of our friends said that he's like, we're like a step below Harvard, and we're like, dude, come on,
dude. It's
man.
Yeah, they'll tell, and I don't even think they would tell you a step below. And so it's like that's kind of like there is some arrogance at the school. Like it just is what it is.
Yeah,
but that's any like harder to get into school. But I think it does bleed into the fan base.
Mm-hmm. And then a lot of those fans just never went there.
Yeah, but it's like, but I think that arrogance somehow like mutates through like even the fans that didn't go to the school. I think it's like the culture is set there and it kind of goes out to there's some arrogance, but also I think we have some really great, reasonable analysis too, so
and it's not the same as like Alabama, Ohio State.
Yeah.
No.
These places, even because being a Kentucky fan, my dad and I were actually just talking about this the other day. He's like, like 90% of the Kentucky basketball fans never went to the school, don't have a family member that went to the school.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how it is when you're the flagship school.
Dude, when you're a huge brand. Yeah, and like I went to Texas, but I wasn't planning on going to Texas. Like I grew up a Texas fan, but I wasn't going to go to the school, so I didn't have like this kind of like air about it. I happened to go there to chase a major, and it just happened to be at Texas. But there's some elitism there that's I cannot deny. Whenever people mention, it's pretty funny, man. It's a pat yourself on the back in a lot of ways.
I love it.
Pittman is a good dude, just trying to transition.
Hey.
Jumped in late, but did you guys talk anything yet about the Texas recruits visiting other teams Saturday? Only one that catches me was Townsend at Aggie. What the heck did he learn watching New Mexico State? So if you're a good player getting invited to a game that no one cares about, they're generally trying to isolate you, right? So if like it's a Georgia game and there's 900 recruits, there's not a lot of great conversations that can occur. But if I bring you to New Mexico State and I only bring like 4 really good recruits, now we can talk more privately, talk longer.
Right.
So you actually need to be more wary of when they isolate players into these non-big games because they have more FaceTime with them. I'm not saying that's the case here, but generally that's the case. And what was who's the Florida?
Jamie French and Myron Charles made their way
End up at the game.
Yeah, they ended up at the game.
So Florida's not playing around, it looks like, huh? They're like they're putting their NIL efforts to work. Is that what they're doing? Kind of saying, hey, we're behind Napier and let's try to do this thing.
Exactly. And you always try to keep a guy close to home, right? I mean, I think you always have a battle with that. I mean, because being from the state, and Myron Charles being that way, North Carolina, I mean, you can't blame him for trying, right? Because we're trying to flip guys here at the end too, right? So it's just part of recruiting. Until signing day, hey.
And I'm not mad at Florida for it. I think it's interesting that having such a rough year, they've kind of like been able to hold on to everything. It's really interesting. And if you're Jamie French, right, the pitch is you get to play with Lagway and stay home, right?
Yeah,
exactly. That's not a bad pitch. And then Myron Charles, man, that's the one that would really hurt because we need big bodies in the middle.
Yeah, I mean the flips are always something to worry about. With Ole Miss just got, I don't know if y'all saw that, the 5-star receiver they just flipped, which was huge for them. I can't remember who they flipped him from. I'm not
one of the teams that just lost because wasn't that Somebody just lost and he flipped to Ole Miss. It was like insult to injury, wasn't it?
Yeah, man.
I can't remember who the guy was.
They lost.
But yeah, they got a 5-star wide receiver. And then, of course, there's a lot of talk about was it Deuce Knight, I believe, and then Underwood. Is that the kid's name?
Yeah, the quarterback.
Yeah, Underwood. There's a lot of talk about him. Yeah, I mean, the flipping stuff, I feel like nowadays specifically, you cannot, like, ever relax or take your foot off the gas until that kid, is in spring ball, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's man, it's fun. I'd say recruiting something different.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, that's why Justin's the best.
Yeah, it's a crazy job. And how quick it can switch, man. You're talking to the family, like you're like, yeah, baby, it's all Oregon, and then somebody shows up and changes their mind somehow. During the handshake in the middle of the field, did Sark tell Pittman to call him as he might have an O-line coaching position open? Is this actually like a thing? Or are you like
I feel like he would not say that.
Is it like lip reading? Like, where are you getting that from? Are you just like are you being facetious? I don't know what. Expand on that, Jack. If there's like more to it, because I haven't heard that or seen that. But I also didn't watch I have to do the post game live so fast. I don't get to watch any post game anything. Points down is the symbol people have adopted. It's just like a symbol of revolution. It's outgrown the Texas Longhorns. We need to find another Earl Campbell in the portal this year.
Hey,
that's easy to do. That's easy. Just go pick up an Earl Campbell.
I remember. Do you guys remember Chris Warren?
Yeah.
I thought he might be like Earl Campbell. He was so big. I thought he was going to be really a lot better than he was. Because I like those big running backs, like those Derrick Henry builds.
Yeah, so do I.
I always think they'll be better than they will be. Jalen Hurd at Tennessee before he switched to receiver and went to Baylor, actually. He's another one of those guys who's actually quite good. A big back.
What are your expectations for Quinn going into College Station? Shamar Turner is a dirty player who will try to get into Quinn's head.
Look, that's the way A&M plays on defense, though. It's not just Shamar Turner, man. They're gonna try any and everything and force the ref to call something, right? They're gonna bring consistent pressure. They're gonna blitz Quinn and see if they can move him off his spot a ton and see if he can escape the pocket or step up in the pocket, because they're gonna bring it. So that's what I expect to see from A&M's defense. But it's not just Shamar Turner, man. Everybody, they all kind of teach the line of dirty hit or doing something extra, right? And
also quarterbacks after the whistle. They're always just doing something a little bit to try to jar you.
This is what they do. Force the ref to call it. If they don't call it, you get away with it,
Yeah, I mean, you saw a lot of that in the LSU game. If you guys watched that one, they clipped Nussmeier a couple times. It seems like that is kind of just they're like letting their dudes just get after it, like, and they have the guys to do that, right? So I mean, I imagine they're probably going to try and look at what Georgia did and be like, hey, we're at home, we've got the energy, let's spin our ears back, let's attack, let's put pressure on Quinn, and like Coach was saying, step up in the pocket. Let's see him do it. Step up in the pocket, make the right reads quick, identify blitzers off the edge, because they are probably going to be bringing the heat, trying to ride the electricity in what I assume will be a night game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. That's the one I think we're all probably a little worried about, and just that matchup more so. They're front against
styles make fights, and so that's the issue. Is that like when they played South Carolina, they would have sacked the quarterback 900 times, but he just kept getting out of everything, and so it's like Quinn's not gonna be able to do that, guys. Sorry to let you know. So it's like we don't have that level of athleticism back there that South Carolina has.
Right.
So that's the reality. Sark's going to have a game plan.
Yes.
Because they're going to be sending the heat. Why wouldn't you send the heat? There's nothing that's shown that that's not a very profitable endeavor versus us.
Agreed.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the reality, right? I think our defense is going to shut down A&M's offense.
Yes.
I think the inverse can also be true, and it can be a really boring, like 13-9 game. So it's like that's kind of what you're worried about, right?
Yeah, that's the game where special teams may really matter. And I'm just praying, like, please, hey, don't let that be the game that costs us to do special teams, man. Please.
Better punt game. Bert Auburn might have to hit 3 field goals.
Yeah, when you face a defensive-minded hedge coach, man, special teams matters.
It matters.
And then they play field position a lot more. So They're just different than offensive coaches and how they think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be tricky. And like as far as like what do we need to see from Quinn? What you've seen from Quinn, like Quinn is Quinn, right? We're in the third year, late November, right? So we know what he's good at. It sounds mean, but like screens, and like swing. He throws the best like swing pass. It looks great. Sounds like I'm being mean. I'm not. He's really good at. He's struggling to hit deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're having some issues intermediate, which is really frustrating because I thought he was the best in the country for the past 3 years at intermediate throwing. I think he's really special there, but we're just not seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, he showed a little bit of it though, like in the game-winning drive before the one where they ran the clock out when they needed that touchdown was 13-10.
Yeah.
He had good protection. He actually stepped up a little bit and he hit Bond on a perfect throw, right? And then the game-winning touchdown. That was a perfect. I mean, that's pinpoint. Actually, put it where the defender couldn't get it. So I feel like, we know it's there because we've seen it there. And we saw it in the beginning of the season, and then but it does seem like, and like we're talking about with the inconsistency of the offense, that obviously is going to follow your quarterback, right? Seems like Quinn's been inconsistent, the team's been inconsistent, right? Because then in 1 second, he's sacking himself, because he steps up in the pocket wrong. The first sack also where he just stepped up wrongfully, he just made the wrong read, just stepped up for the sake of stepping up, and then got clipped. But then that one where he got entrapped and then he spun out and threw a dart to Silas Bolden, but Silas Bolden didn't quite grab it. I mean, that was point. Actually, Quinn still has that in him. The question is like, I think a lot of it is probably mental. Coming off the injury, we've seen he struggle with that, and then he's getting more heat than he's probably ever gotten from the fan base, and he's probably he's feeling more pressure than he's ever felt with the guy to pretend like they're buddies, but to pretend like you don't know. The heir to the team and the Manning fortune is right behind you, right there. Arch Manning.
There's also millions of dollars on the line in the draft.
Yeah, NIL. Because these players we're acting like it's just like a simple transition, right? But these players are now treated like professionals because they're paid how many millions, right? That's gotta mess with the kid's head. It's just a little different because when people say, like to your point, Quinn is Quinn probably for the majority of it, but we've seen a lot of guys like who are the best quarterbacks in the country in the last few years. Last year's Heisman, it was all 5th and 6th year guys, right? So it's like who's the best quarterbacks in the country right now? It's Shadur 5th year, Cam Ward 5th year, and Dylan Gabriel 6th year. So I mean, I think it's just kind of to pretend that this means he won't develop when he's in the NFL. We're not necessarily saying that, but it just he probably is what he is this season. It's the question of can we get the best out of him. Right.
Well, it's like we have this funny like way of thinking about football. So if I told you like anything else was in 2 weeks, like a wedding, your wedding's in 2 weeks, you wouldn't be like, man, we need to focus on this week first, and then we'll think about the wedding next week. It's like, guys, it's 2 weeks. Like it's like they're like, we'll see. We got a lot of football left to play. It's like, no, we literally don't. We have 2 weeks left.
I know.
And so it's like when like fans are like, what's Quinn gonna figure out? It's like. I get in football talk. We're always like, 2 weeks is a long time. 2 weeks is not a long time in literally anything else.
Yeah. It just kind of depends on if he's hot. Really, it kind of depends on where he is.
But it depends on Sark.
Yeah.
True.
The reality is if Sark schemes you up and, Quinn versus Alabama, right? They practiced that stuff for weeks. Quinn was super confident. They knew what looks they're going to get. They're going to break the defense. The guy's going to be open. Quinn will kill you like that.
Yeah.
Michigan, same thing. Quinn will kill you like that, and so
I think hot was probably wrong. More confidence. I think Quinn has felt probably the most rattled. I think he was riding high for that start until he came back from that injury, and then OU it was like a little, what's going on here? First half against Georgia, it was like whoa, and then I think it really is probably Sark's game plan to Homer's point, and like if Quinn is Quinn has to think he's that guy. You become what you think about. He has to go back to feeling like, because we thought, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I thought after Michigan, I'm like, oh, he's the best pocket passing quarterback in the country. That's what I thought. But
I thought he took that leap.
Yeah, I thought he took that leap.
That's what I thought. The leap. It seemed like, oh, dude, he's probably the number one quarterback taken. That's what it looked like after Michigan, and then just cruising past everybody until that oblique injury, and then now I think it's literally just probably in his head and a little bit of maybe some things are getting exposed that we didn't really necessarily know about.
Yeah, so as far as like, is Quinn going to come out and be a giant slayer? I don't think you can game plan for that. It's like I think you have to game plan for what you see, which is like a pretty good quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like not bad, but not elite game to game. So it's like that's what you have to kind of game it for. And then Sark's got to scheme it up, right? One of the plays to Golden, one of the touchdowns, Golden's wide open. There's like no one even there, So it's like Sark has to make a couple of those. And can Sark do it? Absolutely. We've seen him do it a ton of times. But Sark has to do more heavy lifting and kind of give Quinn these like very obvious touchdowns or looks. It's helpful.
Yeah, but I feel like when we have those guys, what you're talking about earlier, 3 NFL receivers, that's very possible, right? Like
yeah.
Well, and for like A&M, right? Like, you should have been working A&M forever, and A&M had bye week, New Mexico State, Auburn. So A&M's been working Texas. We'll end up working Texas for a month by the time we play them. And we had to play Florida, not a great team. Arkansas, not a great team. Kentucky, not a great team. So Texas should have had some time too.
Yes.
So, and teams that say they only work week to week are liars. There's games that you
guarantee it.
they're liars. Those games that matter, they matter. Quinn is not getting time to sit the bench a year or two in college and work on his fundamentals was not ideal for him. Quinn didn't want to sit the bench either. It's like Quinn wasn't like thrown into the fire. The plan was Quinn was the whiz kid that was going to come in 3 years and go first overall. We've kind of become revisionist since then, but what we bought initially is not what we've received.
Mm-hmm.
But you would hopefully think that this would help Arch now because his year 3 will be his first year starting. So we see with Nussmeier first started hot, but even like Nussmeier and Miller Moss both started their seasons really good, and obviously Arch is much more talented than both those guys. Those are guys who were system guys for 3-4 years, and then you just learn everything in and out. And he's probably going to learn from a lot of the mistakes that we see Quinn make. And Quinn's still a really good college quarterback in comparison to the majority of the country. We're just talking about who's that guy who can be a national championship quarterback, right?
Right. Get you
and Quinn's brought us back from no quarterback, right? He's taking us to a different level than where we were, but Manning had a different approach, right? Like we want to go somewhere we can sit and learn because they understand the game, learning and developing the whole nine. So, but Quinn he didn't want to sit and he was thrust into action too, but that's what he wanted. So, I mean, but you see it all over football, even in the NFL. These rookies are being thrown in. It's a big learning curve, man.
It ruins them sometimes. We even saw with like Sam Darnold. You throw a guy in early and bad.
It's a meat grinder.
It is.
So I want to walk through this. Texas A&M will beat y'all. They look way better. All right. So Kilroy, let's walk through this logically, right? Not even a fan way. Texas has the number 1 defense in the country. There's no question statistically there. Okay.
Right.
So Texas A&M has a cool pass rush. There's 3 phases. You need run defense, coverage, and a pass rush. So congrats. Texas has all 3 of those, and they work together. So they don't look better on that side of the ball, right? So that's half of the argument that's already lost. Okay, and so now we have to look at the offenses, right? They've changed quarterbacks several times, so we'll talk about the Marcel Reed offense. When we're saying A&M looks good with Marcel Reed, they played against LSU that has never seen what a zone read is from a quarterback. LSU did not know that quarterbacks could run, apparently, and so he was able to do that. So we think that A&M has a better running quarterback than Texas. I'll give you that point. All right, and then Marcel Reed versus South Carolina. How did he look as a passing quarterback? Also known as a quarterback, right? Not a running back.
Right.
So how did he look at quarterback? Not great. He's not a great passer, right? So to say they look way better, and then let's talk about their run game, right? What happened to their number 1 back? They don't have him.
Their other back was injured before the seasons, right?
Yep.
So they're down 1 and 2.
Yeah, but now their back's gone, right? So what you have basically is a good Texas A&M defense, but not as good as Texas's defense.
Right.
And then you have an offense, a Texas offense that's struggling 100%. We just talked about it for about an hour. But the A&M offense requires a running quarterback, which they have. They can't pass well. Their wide receivers have had issues getting separation all year long. And the A&M fans will tell you that. And then their number 1 runner's out.
Yeah.
So to say Texas A&M looks way better, that's just not factually true.
And to the running quarterback point, Texas is great against that. So, I mean, Texas shut down Jalen Green, Pavia. Well, we didn't play Lagway. But, yeah, so far, Texas, that's been something they are very good about. Is those
Yeah. And so we're talking pure athleticism. Hawkins can run too for Oklahoma. Now they're so discombobulated it did not matter. But if we're talking about putting someone on a track, right? Hawkins can also run, and he wasn't able to do anything. So the concept, I get it. Like you can say they look way better. They just don't.
They don't.
They just don't. I just went through every phase of offense and defense. They have no edge anywhere.
Yeah, I think the way they would win this game is Texas opens up with he says Georgia exposed it. If Texas opens up with strip sack and throws 2 interceptions, right?
Well, Georgia exposed it, right? But who has A&M played? Did they play Tennessee?
No.
Did they play Ole Miss?
Nope.
Nope.
Did they play Georgia?
Nope.
Did they play Alabama? No. So who is A&M played in the top echelon of the SEC?
Yeah.
Right. So they haven't. Texas has played them. They lost. Right. We'll give you that point. They lost. But A&M has not faced any of the top crust of the SEC either, and both of their top 25 wins both lost. Last week. So they have 0 top 25s as well. So I'm not saying that Texas is far and away better than A&M. I'm saying that all of their arguments that they used against Texas can be totally pointed at them. We don't know what A&M is. We know what Notre Dame did against them, and we saw what Notre Dame did the next week as well. So we'll see, man. It's going to be an incredible game. If we lose, I'll cry for hours probably. But right now, if we're purely talking logic, there's no differentiator here to say that A&M is far better. We'll find out in 2 weeks, though. That's the fun part.
Yeah, we'll find out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Were you in school yet the last time they played?
Me?
Yeah, were you in school yet?
No, I was in school from 2011 to 2015.
Wait, that was the last.
Yeah, but I didn't. That was right at the end of it, 2012, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or
I never saw him play.
Yeah, 2011 was the last time they played. So yeah, November 2011.
Okay, so 2011. So yeah, right there at the end of it. But no, I never saw him play. Kilroy woke up on the Sabbath and chose trolling. Go take your sister wife to church. Go up. I'm okay with the troll. I mean, you can say that you think A&M is better. It's just when we walk through it logically, we can't. That's not a tenable position.
Exactly.
All right. Dude was nowhere to be found when
Ole Miss
smoked them last week. Move on. South Carolina, and they got smoked. Now, I'll be fair. South Carolina, man, does not look like a fun team to play right now, dude.
No, not at all. But they've been like that all season, right? Like when Sellers is hot and they're playing well, like their defense travels too.
Yeah.
Like, when they don't turn the ball over, make all these crazy mistakes, like South Carolina is a tough team to beat, especially at home.
Yeah. So I'm not even knocking that. They look like the real thing, and they're putting it together later on. But LSU getting punked kind of showed what was going on there. And then Missouri, man, I'm glad they got put to bed. That remember at the beginning of this year, everyone was like, Mizzou, man, that's your sleeper team. It's like,
well, Drinkwitz last week goes, we're still in the playoff race. That's right. I said playoff race. So they get shut down immediately the next week.
Drink either makes me laugh. Like, I either hate him or think he's hilarious.
I'm not the biggest fan because last year when he walked up to Heupel, he goes, "We stand on business." Like, the players just said I would do that. It's like, dude, come on. It's just like such.
He makes me laugh though. Like, in a world of very boring coach interviews, any coach that like has any personality,
I love it though.
It's at least something to talk about.
Coach Sig is my guy this year. I love watching Coach Sig.
Yeah, definitely.
Dude, he just signed that big deal too, right? So OU can't, because OU's been talking about trying to poach him, you know?
That would be bad.
Now you got to pay $72 million to do it, so that's not happening.
Then I would have to root against Coach Sig. I like it in Indiana.
Yeah,
Coach Sig.
I like it.
I still have not watched Indiana play one time.
They're fun to watch. Well, you'll watch them next week, I guess, but that's where you'll find out how legit they are. But I actually think they've got a lot of they could expose a lot of weaknesses on Ohio State. They're a bad matchup with them because they stretch the ball downfield and they can throw it outside, similar to an Oregon, and they move pretty fast. And Curtis Rourke throws darts. Like, he's very accurate. He doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah, Ian really likes him. He says mentally he's a sharp quarterback.
Another sixth-year guy, as we were talking about.
Exactly.
You give them that sixth year, that's where they make the jump. Look at Jaden Daniels.
Well, yeah, because they're cheating and should be in the league or out. Yeah.
You're 24.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, of course you're better than the 19-year-old that's like stumbling down 6th Street. I wish the refs didn't screw South Carolina against LSU because a 7-2 South Carolina would be right in the playoff race. Yeah, I agree. I think
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, they're probably the hottest team in the league right now in the SEC. They've been close with everyone except Ole Miss. That was it.
But I think those are the two hottest, Ole Miss and South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both are great pass rush teams. That's what can really just disrupt the game and blow up your game plan.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we'll see versus the Texas A&M Fighting Aggies.
Yeah.
Because they have that. So it's going to be fun, man. But as far as Kentucky goes, I'm about to write their breakdown when we get off of this. And then we'll be covering them throughout the week. I promise we will not be looking ahead. We will be covering Kentucky. Not a very good team.
Yeah.
Not a very good team.
Sorry, James.
But it also doesn't mean that they can't, do something weird and drag you into the mud, right?
Yeah, I feel like they kind of burned all that oil out of their tank early on in the season.
I also have a theory that, and I've talked about this with the Steven at Fanatic perspective, you're more likely to get upset by bad teams earlier in the season. I don't even know if this is true statistically, but because the bad team doesn't realize they're bad yet.
Yeah, that is.
You get what I'm saying? Like Kentucky was like, dude, we might be really good, and then they find out that they're not.
Well,
really
the first like 5-6 weeks, because that was game 5 against Ole Miss. They were a top 5 defense statistically, and then now it's dropped off a cliff because the players stop having things to play for. At the end of the day, that's a lot of what it is. And I would probably agree with you because you remember Notre Dame losing to Marshall early in the year, Notre Dame losing to Illinois, and then of course shout out A&M losing to App State at home. It does seem those games always happen September time.
But it's like that's what I've noticed is like teams punch up really well in the beginning because they don't know they're bad yet. Like it matters. The only good things for Kentucky is they had 2 straight bye weeks. So that's what's interesting, right? They played Tennessee, went on a bye, and then FCS, right? So it's like will be on their third week of Texas prep.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I was just looking that up to see who they play. I was like, Mark Stoops might have a game plan in place. They just played Murray State bye week, so.
While Kentucky is a bad team, they did just play Tennessee close in their last real game. And, I feel like Texas is actually kind of comparable to Tennessee, like in the offense, where it's ebbs and flows. But I think we're kind of a slightly better version than the fake UT. It's like slightly better on offense because obviously Quinn should be better than Nico. Nico's a little more spotty on missing throws and stuff. And
he's a true freshman as well.
Yeah, and the defense is a little bit better, I think, on our end. So that could be comparable if he deploys a game plan similar to Tennessee and they're playing great defense. But still, Tennessee ended up winning that game, I believe, by 13 maybe.
28-18. Yeah, 10
Yeah, I think they'll absolutely try to drag us in the mud, run the ball,
Yes.
shorten the clock, do all that stuff. Will they be able to do it? Who knows, right? And that's why we have to tune in for another exciting week of Texas football.
Inside Texas football.
You're right. There we go. Make sure to like and subscribe, guys. Make sure to go to InsideTexas.com. You can get all the latest insider news. Coach, we appreciate you. James, we appreciate you. Fans, thanks for hanging out on your Sunday. Enjoy some NFL football. Later, y'all.